Okay, so the $695 annual fee just posted on my American Express Platinum card, and I decided to keep this card for another year. This decision even surprised me, because just 8 months ago, I made a video about how I might cancel my Amex Platinum card due to being fed up with high annual fees, multiple statement credits, and my experiences with lounge overcrowding. And while those are still issues, I analyzed my own use case with the Amex Platinum card and realized that despite my hatred towards these things, this card still made sense for myself and my wife. So in this video, I'm going to tell you the 3 reasons why I decided to keep my American Express Platinum card for another year and give you some insight on how this card may still be worth it despite its reputation as the card that everyone loves to hate. So to start, if you don't have the Platinum card, as long as you can earn a nice elevated welcome offer and can meet the minimum spend requirement organically, in my opinion, this card is always worth it in the first year. Of course, there are family language rules now, so I wouldn't jump directly into the Platinum card, but instead work up the ladder, starting with the green card, then the gold card, and then finally the Platinum card. I'd also recommend getting the classic Platinum card first, not the Schwab Platinum or Morgan Stanley versions, since you're much more likely to get an elevated welcome offer on that classic Platinum card. But once that second annual fee posts, the next question, especially for this card, is should I keep or cancel this card? Now, with a no annual fee card, this question doesn't really matter, but since we're talking about the Amex Platinum, which is the king of high annual fee cards, this is certainly a card that's on deck for that keep or cancel decision. And since this is where I'm at now, let me explain my thought process on how I kind of thought through this question. So the normal methodology around this is to just analyze your usage of the card over the past year to see if the annual fee makes sense. And while that's helpful, in 2025, I think this is a little basic, and I'd take this a step further. When looking at high annual fee cards, it's important to judge them not only against their past year usage, but also against the other cards in your overall credit card portfolio. By doing this, you have a broader idea of how your portfolio works as a whole, and is a direct example of how these credit card decisions are so personalized. Everyone's credit card setup is different, and depending on how you use your Platinum card in the context of your other cards, your keep or cancel decision will be entirely unique from someone else. So with that in mind, here's my current credit card portfolio, which has 19 cards. Now, out of those 19 cards, 8 of them have annual fees, 5 personal cards, and 3 business cards, with annual fees totaling $2,767. And as you all know, I highly recommend organizing your credit card portfolio into 3 tiers. Your core credit card setup, which are the cards you use for spending, your secondary setup, which are the cards you use primarily for the benefits, and your bench cards, which are the cards you keep open for longevity or if they are rotating category cards. Now, I hope that there aren't any annual fee cards in your bench setup, because cards in that tier should really be no annual fee cards to begin with. In my situation, all of my bench cards are no annual fee cards, so we can set this tier to the side. And by doing so, now we can focus on the other 2 tiers that we'd expect to have cards with annual fees, namely the core credit card setup and secondary credit card setup. And in my personal credit card portfolio, I've noticed something very interesting. Out of the 8 credit cards that have annual fees, 7 of them are cards I'd place in my secondary setup, while the US Bank Altitude Reserve is the only annual fee card that I have in my core credit card setup. And this really is a good example of what high annual fee cards are really for. And unsurprisingly, these types of cards should be used primarily for benefits. So for me, the Amex Platinum is a card in my secondary setup because I rarely use it for spending. The only spending I do on this card is for that 5x flight multiplier, as well as for any of the statement credits on the card that work for me, which we'll cover later in this video. So in my portfolio, the 3 cards with the highest annual fees are the Amex Platinum at $695, the Amex Bonvoy Brilliant card at $650, and the Chase Ritz-Carlton card at $450. And not only this, the Amex Bonvoy Brilliant and the Chase Ritz-Carlton are the 2 cards that have benefits that overlap with the Amex Platinum, and comparing these cards together will help me with that keep or cancel decision. So let's start with the Chase Ritz-Carlton card, because that's the card that competes directly with the Amex Platinum in my setup when it comes to airport lounge access. So like I said before, lounges are incredibly overcrowded these days, which really cheapens the experience for everyone involved. But if we put that to the side for a second and assume we can get into the lounges and enjoy their comforts without issue, The first question I want to answer is, compared to the lounge access on the Chase Ritz-Carlton card, do I need to keep the Amex Platinum card for its lounge access opportunities? So let's compare both cards and their lounge access options, specifically how it relates to my own usage to figure this out. While both cards offer a Priority Pass membership, the Amex Platinum card offers Centurion Lounge access, while the Chase Ritz-Carlton card offers Chase Sapphire Lounge access. Now, if you've been following my channel, you know that I travel a lot for business, and the two airports that I frequent the most are the Ontario Airport in Southern California, as well as the Sacramento Airport in Northern California. And both of these are smaller airports, but they do both have lounges, an Aspire Lounge in Ontario and an Escape Lounge in Sacramento. Sadly, in recent months, I've noticed that the Sacramento Lounge has become a hot mess. It may be because I fly to and from that airport during peak travel days, but every time I'm there, the lounge is completely full. And even if I get in, it's so small and cramped, it's not a pleasant experience. This still hasn't been the case yet for the Aspire Lounge in Ontario, but I've seen an uptick in its popularity, so we'll see how long that lounge remains as a comfortable option. In any case, I mention this because I visit lounges maybe 2 to 3 times per month regularly, down from 4 to 6 times per month in previous years since I no longer even bother going to the Sacramento Escape Lounge. And both lounges are accessible through Priority Pass. So with that said, my business travel does not depend on either the Centurion Lounge network or the Sapphire Lounge network at all, which leaves airport lounge access dependent on my personal travel. And so I need to look at where these lounges are and anticipate the approximate frequency at which I may use them over the course of a year. Looking at the airports I tend to visit the most outside of my business routes, for Centurion lounges that would be Las Vegas, Phoenix, Denver, and Dallas-Fort Worth. And for Sapphire lounges that would be Boston, Phoenix, and Las Vegas, with Las Vegas as a lounge that's, quote, coming soon. Now, even though I'm a Southern California resident and there's a Centurion Lounge in LAX, it's in the Tom Bradley International Terminal, which is kind of useless in my situation. I rarely fly internationally, and if I did, I'd probably have a business class ticket that would already have lounge access included anyways, so there's that. So one thing that you notice is that there's now some overlap between Centurion and Sapphire lounges, and in my case, that would be with Phoenix and soon Las Vegas. But for those one-off times when I travel to Denver or Dallas, I think it'd be nice to still have access to those Centurion lounges when I'm there. Now, I'm definitely keeping an eye on the lounge map because as Chase expands their lounge network, I'm going to be less dependent on Amex's lounge network since I already have the Chase Ritz-Carlton card. And so once the Sapphire lounge network is built up, there may not even be a need for me to have Centurion Lounge access, so we'll have to see how that develops. One other difference between these two cards is how they handle authorized users. As we all know, the big benefit with the Chase Ritz-Carlton card is its ability to have free authorized users, with every user having their own Priority Pass membership with unlimited free guests. Of course, the actual number of free guests will depend on the specific Priority Pass lounge you visit, but the possibility is still there. On the other hand, the Amex Platinum card charges $195 per authorized user, and if you want the privilege of complimentary guest access at Centurion lounges, you'll get that after spending $75,000 on the card in a calendar year. Now for me, I have the Morgan Stanley version that grants me one free authorized user, and since my wife is that authorized user, we can both go into Centurion lounges without an issue. But if I didn't have the Morgan Stanley version, the Centurion lounge benefit wouldn't even be a consideration for me because there's no way I'd pay extra money to wait in line at the Centurion lounge to get my wife in too. So given all we just discussed, the reason why I'm keeping the Amex Platinum card from the lounge access perspective is that while Sapphire lounges have great coverage, there are still a few Centurion lounges in US cities that I'd still like to have access to. But as lounge access expands across issuers and airlines, the Centurion Lounge network is starting to become less impressive as there's an increasing number of alternatives to go to instead. Okay, so that's the first reason why I decided to keep the Amex Platinum card, but for the second reason, we're going to step away from airport lounges and actually go into hotel elite status. Now, as you all know, the Amex Platinum card offers Marriott Bonvoy Gold Elite status as well as Hilton Gold status. And as someone with the Amex Bonvoy Brilliant card, which offers Marriott Bonvoy Platinum Elite status already, I don't need the Amex Platinum card for the Marriott Elite status. But what I do need is the Hilton Gold status, because if we look back at my credit card portfolio, you can see that the only Hilton card I have currently is the no annual fee Hilton Honors card. And from my view, being Hilton Gold or higher is so important when staying at Hilton properties. And if I didn't have the Amex Platinum, I wouldn't have Hilton Gold. And call it lifestyle creep or whatever you want, but to me, if I didn't have Hilton Gold status, I probably wouldn't voluntarily choose to stay at a Hilton property. Now, of course, there's plenty of other ways to get Hilton Gold status, especially with credit cards. With a $150 annual fee, you have the Hilton Surpass card, and with a $195 annual fee, you have the Hilton Business Card. And since I'm at the bottom of my Hilton credit card ladder, my plan is to get the Hilton Surpass card next, followed by the Hilton Aspire card, and then play that upgrade-downgrade game. Now, sadly, I need to save my hard pulls since my wife and I are planning to go house hunting soon, so we're taking a pause on new credit card applications, at least for now. And so with that in mind, the second reason why I decided to keep the Amex Platinum card for the next year is to continue to have that Hilton Gold status. Just like with airport lounges, this benefit will soon be overshadowed by a changing environment, and in this case, this is due to the future Hilton Surpass card that I plan to add to my credit card portfolio. And so those are the main two benefits that have convinced me to keep the Amex Platinum card open. But even though they provide great value, I don't necessarily think they provide $695 of value. So that's where the final reason comes in, which are the statement credits that ultimately make this card worth it to me. Now, we know that of all the credit cards out there, the Amex Platinum is the card that started the statement credit frenzy now plaguing the credit card industry. But when it comes to my own personal use, actually, some of the statement credits do make sense for our household. And I'm not going to go through every single statement credit and benefit on this card because that would take forever, but I'll cover the ones that I think make the biggest difference. The first is the 240 digital entertainment credit, which is divided into a monthly $20 credit. Now, at the time of the recording of this video, you can get a Hulu bundle with Disney Plus, both with no ads, for $19.99 per month, and that's the plan that we have. And while I don't really watch Hulu or Disney Plus at all, my wife certainly does. So as a household, I would value this credit in full. The next credit is the $200 annual airline incidental credit, and I liquidate this credit using standard techniques. So I also value this credit in full. And another credit that's important is the $199 Clear credit. So about a year ago, I actually thought Clear was a huge waste of money. The TSA PreCheck and Clear lines seem to always be empty, and because of that, it was faster to go through TSA PreCheck than it was to go through Clear. But recently, I think that's completely changed. Now when I travel, the TSA PreCheck line has gotten much busier than in the past, even in the smaller regional airports that I travel through. The Clear line is now consistently quicker than the TSA PreCheck line, and as I'm a frequent traveler, I use Clear every time I go through airport security, which is at least 40 to 50 times per year, making this credit definitely worthwhile for me. And the last credit that I value in full is the $200 hotel credit. Personally, I love using this credit for stays in Las Vegas, specifically at hotels like the Palazzo. Recently, I booked a 2-night stay with FHR at the Palazzo for $198 per night, which is an incredible deal. Now, this price doesn't reflect resort fees, so the true cost is actually about $220 per night, but with that $200 hotel credit, that's like getting one night free, so I'll take it. So if we total up the statement credits discussed so far, that's already $840 in value, so we're already doing pretty well. But the last benefit that pushes this card over the top for me is the fact that my Amex Platinum is the Morgan Stanley version. Like I mentioned earlier, my wife is a free authorized user, which is a $195 value. So with this benefit, plus the other statement credits, it makes sense for us to keep the American Express Platinum around. And just for completeness sake, I also want to mention that the $200 Uber credit, $100 Saks Fifth Avenue credit, and the $13.95 per month Walmart Plus credits are all ones that I also use on my Platinum card. But the reason why I don't consider them as true value is because I wouldn't purchase any of these things if I didn't have those statement credits. Of course, I use them, so technically it's some value back, but I'm not counting them towards my effective annual fee because it's extra spending I wouldn't normally be doing. And so with all that in mind, the Amex Platinum card has remained a net positive card for me, so this card will remain in my portfolio, but we'll see what happens next year when it's time for that next keep or cancel decision. And so those are the three reasons why I'm keeping my Amex Platinum card. For me, the statement credits work out, and I'm also able to enjoy the benefits of this card as a frequent traveler. Of course, it's very important to always audit your annual fee cards to ensure that they make sense for your specific situation. And like I mentioned earlier, the best way to do this is to organize your credit card portfolio to understand how you use your credit cards and why. And to see how you can do this to create your own best credit card setup, check out this video next.